regard that God has given us animal friends we can learn from them and whose friendship we can enjoy. So I managed to find a writer, an 18th century writer called Christopher Smart. Now between 1757 and 1763, Christopher was forced to live in solitary confinement in an asylum, so it was a very lonely time for him. But he did have a friend, a little cat called Geoffrey, came to visit him throughout the years and spent lots of time with him and became his closest friend. So this poem by Geoffrey reminded me a little bit of the Beatitudes, nearly like a cat version. And I thought that I would read it for you today just to recognise God's gift of friendship from our animal friends. So this is an excerpt from Jubilate Adamo by Christopher Smart. For I will consider my cat Geoffrey, for he is the servant of the living God, duly and daily serving him. For at the first glance of the glory of God in the east, he worships in his way. For this is done by wreathing his body 7 times round with elegant quickness. For having done duty and received blessing, he begins to consider himself. And then, for having considered God and himself, he will consider his neighbour. For if he meets another cat, he will kiss her in kindness. For when he takes his prey, he plays with it to give it a chance. For 1 mouse in 7 escapes by his dallying. For when his day's work is done, his business more properly begins. For he keeps the Lord's watch in the night against the adversary. For he counteracts the powers of darkness by his electrical skin and glaring eyes. For he counteracts the devil, who is dead, by brisking about the life. For in his morning orisons he loves the sun, and the sun loves him. For he has the subtlety and hissing of a serpent, which in goodness he suppresses. For he will not do destruction if he is well fed, neither will he spit without provocation. For he purrs in thankfulness when God tells him he's a good cat. For he is an instrument for the children to learn benevolence calling. The Lord commanded Moses concerning the cats at the departure of the children of Israel from Egypt. For the dexterity of his defence is an instance of the love of God to him exceedingly. For he is the quickest to his mark of any creature, for he is tenacious to his point, for he knows that God is his Saviour. There is nothing sweeter than his peace when at rest, and nothing brisker than his life when in motion. But the divine spirit comes about his body to sustain it in complete cat. He is docile and can learn certain things. He can fetch and carry, which is patience in employment. He can jump over a stick, which is patience upon proof positive. For he is good to think on, if a man would express himself neatly. For by stroking him I have found out electricity. For I perceived God's light about him, both wax and fire. For the electrical fire is the spiritual substance, which God sends from heaven to sustain the bodies both of man and beast. For God has blessed him in the variety of his movements. Thank you, God our Father, for the gift of the friendship of our animal friends. Amen.